Hello, everyone, and welcome back to VectoScalar Tech Talk show. Like each and every episode, we have amazing guests who talks about their experience in technology world and how it is helping their life. In the same manner, today we have a very interesting speaker, Sanyam Bansal, who will talk about the rise of global remote software engineers. Welcome, Sanyam, to our show.
Yes, thanks, Vikas.
And for the benefit of our audience, let me give you a brief introduction about Sanyam Bansal. Sanyam, with 8 plus years of professional expertise, is a professionally recognized for his contribution to the growth of 0 to 1 startups. Specializing in scaling initiative, he has a robust background in developing no-code platforms. In his role, Sanyam showcased his prowess in backend and infrastructure engineering. And talking about the rise of global software engineers, Sanyam, out of his more than 8 years of experience, has been working as remote software engineer in global companies for more than 7 years. So, Sanyam, before we dive into the aspect about remote software engineering, let us know about your current company, which is Invisible Technology, and your role there.
Yes, definitely. Hi, everyone. My name is Sayam. I'm based out of New Delhi, and I'm currently working with the Invisible Technologies, which is based out of US. And I'm working as a senior software engineer in the platform team. My work is my main responsibility is to handle the backend application scalability around with infrastructure. So as a platform team, we ensure all the engineering teams in our organization are empowered with the right frameworks, tools, and infrastructure so they can succeed as companies succeeding. And Invisible Technologies is a operation innovation companies. What we do is to help companies to innovate their operations. I can give you an example of a food delivering company that's based out of US. What they do, they need a lot of workforce to do some kind of operations for menu and things. But how Invisible help there is to get their process. Then we created a flow of that processes with different steps. A lot of the steps got automated, and the places where things cannot be automated, we plug in the human people and then create this whole cycle of it. And that simply optimize the cost more than 70% for them. And similarly, we are doing for a lot of more companies. Uh, and currently, we are in the AI training space as well. If you are listening, the big LLM companies like Cohere, OpenAI, like Invisible is a big part of helping them in doing their AI training work. And like we are the leading company right now in the AI training space.
That's very insightful, Sanyam. Now, talking about global remote software engineers. So, all of us are aware about remote software engineering. We understand, especially post COVID, that when there are many software engineers who are working from home. But what is
Mhm.
specifically crucial about global remote software engineers? Could you explain it more?
Yes, definitely. I think what happens with COVID, things got confused. There used to be an ecosystem which was like a global ecosystem, and then there was COVID comes up, and lots of companies which was core as the in-house companies become remote company as both of the parts get confused. And I think that's makes some kind of different image of this whole ecosystem. But I can talk more about what's a global remote software engineer. I think it's similar as you do as a software engineer in any in-house company. But the thing is, you are not physically constrained to do work from a certain location or a certain geography. You are like open to hire people from different geography, different countries, and you everyone can collaborate and work together for the objectives you have. That's the major difference in term of work or anything. Everything is same, but that's a difference. I want to talk more around what this remote ecosystem mostly comes from and how this is
Sure.
evolving going forward. So. Uh, if you talk about this ecosystem, you need to understand the demand and the supply chain of any ecosystem. Either it's a logistic or either it's software. Everything have a demand and supply chain. So
Yes.
for any companies who want to go from a 0 to 1 path or 1 to 10 path. 0 to 1 means like you started from a 0 million revenue to a 1 million revenue, or a 1 to 10 million of revenue. This company usually comes with a small seed kind of funding, which are usually less than $1 million kind of funding. So let's assume you are a founder of any company and starting a company from a Bay Area, San Francisco, and you have a 500K in your bank account to start things. Okay, and you need 2 or 3 engineers, maybe 5 engineers, to start working on your idea. Okay, if I start looking in a Bay Area to hire 2 engineers, I mostly consuming my whole budget of just hiring 2 engineers for the year, right? And everything is packed. How this global ecosystem helping companies to so any company starting, they can simply can look for international talent without any constraint for the people who they can work with. And that's how they like it's important for any startups to have their cash being saved. So what they do, basically they provide a very lucrative kind of offers to have a good amount of equity along with some kind of cash component. And that's helps them to have a sustainable period for maybe next 2 3 years. So that's how I guess these things develop. They simply went to some platforms and things, job post, get people across the world with whatever the budgets they have, whatever people align to. So for me, I usually look more around equity parts as compared to comp part, and I think lots of people have a similar mindset. They're looking, so this make them lucrative, and when you join some company, it's easier for them to afford you. And I'm not saying like uh, it's a, it's a less paying job, but for any initial startups, they want some kind of balance between how they burn their cash, right? Uh, so yes, that's the whole ecosystem, basically how you can end it up, why it's being started. And now we need to understand how okay, so we need to understand how you can add into that ecosystem and how can you add the value in this ecosystem. Okay,
Sure.
so for example, any company want to start some app development or anything, right? They want some engineers, they want some backend engineers, they want some infrastructure engineers, they want some front end engineers, right? So what will be more optimal for them to have someone who have some kind of primary and secondary kind of skill set. So let's assume you are primarily have a very solid hand in backend, but also do the infrastructure as well, right? So for hiring such candidates, this company have a better return of investments. So if I'm someone who basically went into backend development and also say, okay, I can develop a scalable infrastructure as well, and simply set up the things required, maybe uh, like the basic frameworks like Terraform, then Docker, Kubernetes, database status, and everything. So what you are giving a value, you're giving two values. One is as a backend engineer, one is as an infrastructure engineer. Then people might ask, okay, you are doing two jobs. Why you are doing two jobs? Uh, if you see in any companies who are in very initial stage, there are some part of applications you do not always need to engage with. For example, if you develop a standard infrastructure with standard practices, you might not need to touch it for next 6 months, right? For any startups, they want to avoid to have that cash burn where someone is on desk for 6 months where where there is no work, right? So if you work in a way where you have a primary plus secondary skill which can work as a uh, sword, which are both side for you, then this is the ecosystem you can end it up easily,
Okay.
basically.
Okay, Sayam. That's a very well explained part that how the system comes into picture. So, based on your experience, have you seen, as you just talked about, that primary use cases when someone is just starting? But have you seen that kind of work also happening remotely, especially global remotely, when there is a say team of 100 people or 500 people already there, and then still they need remote engineers?
Yes, I think what happens if any companies start as their core values as remote, basically. So I see these companies remains remote if there are more
Okay.
people. So I'm from Invisible Technology. Right now we have 2,000 people in company, and we still being 100% remote. So I think it's more with the company's core value, how they started with. So if that's remote, your core people and every culture is around remote, and when culture is around remote, it will be thriving, whatever number of people you have in your company.
Okay. So now it's even making me more curious that even the company of the size of 2,000 people and still choose to being remote. But before
Yeah.
that, I have one question, which is more regarding the legal aspect. That definitely these companies are not having their registered office in India,
Okay.
so one may not get the full time employment. So how's it? Is it a full time employment model or is it a contractual job model on
Okay.
paper?
Yes. Yes. Only if we see in a legal angle, basically, if any company which is registered in US need to have a subsidiary in India to hire a employee, basically a full-time employee. So it is not possible for any US company or a European company to hire someone on a payroll, right? So what happens? They comes up with a contract system, or they either go with some companies like remote.com. So remote.com, if I'm familiar, they basically contract. They have like multi uh, countries offices. Then they have this kind of subsidiary set up in every country, and that's how they engage a payroll. But mostly companies work with a pay contract. So contracts are of different types basically. The major contract I've seen are usually a full-time contract, uh, which is more like a long-term contract, which do not have any termination time or anything. It's similarly like the job you are doing based out of India as an employee. It's similar. Everything is similar. It's just full time. The risk is pretty same as you have in the Indian company. So if companies got bankrupt, there is lays off. There is sudden risk in every company. So there will be similar things. You might get fired. You might get fired in a global company or in company which is based out of India as well, right? So the risk ratios are same. There is nothing different, and there are some other ways of this model works. One is fixed period. For example, if someone wants to have a work for next 6 months to do some kind of maybe infrastructure setup, maybe a database optimization, then they do a fixed time contract with you. And there are some other contracts which usually in the freelancing ecosystem is the hourly contracts. Whatever hours you work, then you basically paid for that certain hours. So that different ecosystem, but I usually see there is a whole thriving market of this full-time long-term contracts you can get while working in this ecosystem.
Okay. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me now. Now coming to the next question, that lot many people are finding it difficult even to work within the office and get the desired performance from the engineers. Now in this case, when engineers are working remotely, entirely remotely, so what do you think? What are those qualities that can help one achieve performance while working from home? Any best practices? You have been in this role for more than 7 years now, working remotely.
Right? Yes, there are certain things. So basically, because when you're working remote, it's not about you; it's about the other people as well. How you communicate or engage with other people, because that's on that factors your success is depends, right? If you're someone who are not uh, maybe asynchronously responding or anything, it will make difficult for the companies to operate in that way. So for any remote cultured companies, they set up some kind of standards through which people should work so they can have right success. If you see why companies moving from in-house to remote during COVID period and then remote to in-house, because they see some kind of inefficiencies happening and they're asking people to get back to the
Yes.
offices, right? So I think the major stuff is self-discipline. Uh, like because when you're working at home, the discipline is most important. You might be waking up around 12 noon and started. So you need to have your right discipline set up around things. One is work ethics. I usually tell people you should have a right work ethics. So if someone is blocked on you, it's your responsibility. You are unblocking them, because in offices, someone can go to other desk and say, okay, I am blocked on you. But in a remote culture, someone messaged you and if you never replied for next 3 days, it's pretty hard for the peoples to operate. So you need to have right work ethics of how you communicate and work with people. Another key aspect I can say is time management. It's very easier to lose your work-life balance when you're working in a remote system, because if you have your desktop set up in your bedroom, you are mostly working 24 hour. right? So it's important to set up some kind of boundaries between your working hours and life hours, basically how you spend, uh, and set up some time. So for example, if you know, okay, I need to be working from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., you should have your right time management. You shouldn't be doing other things, because that's impact other people as well. Because if someone, I'm working and the people is in based out of US, then I have just have 3 hours of buffer to talk with them, to have unblock things, any discussions or any reviews we need to do. So you need to have right discipline, right time management need to be done, so you can work uh, people remotely. Yeah.
Okay, okay. That's insightful to know about the importance of discipline, having the right work ethics, and the power of time management. Now, that is from the individual perspective. Now, as a manager, how have you seen in your experience that what are the guidelines that managers are taking so that they can get the right outcome from the engineers?
Uh, for me, I always encourage my team members to have open communication, a public communication, instead of things going through DMs, because that makes things more difficult to understand what is going, who is blocked or who is not. So let's assume if I'm blocked something and I'm messaging to a person 101 and not getting a reply, instead if I publicly added that message, if that person I am trying to reach out is not available and someone else have context, then it's easier to have that get unblocked or have the progress
Okay.
there. So uh, like this public communication I usually engage, and I think it's built within the remote teams culture itself. Like you should have a more public and open or transparent communication around things, so people can have engaged easily. Another can be respect other times. If someone have blocked their calendar for a focus work for 2 hours, you shouldn't be pinging them every 5 minutes for anything. You should respect other time, so other people can focusedly work on. The issue I usually see is like when you're working remotely, your Slack or any chat, maybe Microsoft Teams, is your office, right? You see everything is so when you are in house, you see office like physically what everyone is doing, but when you're working remotely, you do things from your Slack or Microsoft Teams, right? So you need to have the right boundaries. Okay, when I should reach out to someone and what's the right channel to reach out to someone. Should I set up a meeting based on their availabilities or based on their blocks they had added for any blocking things? So that's kind of things help. Another I can say is oral versus writing. What happens, let's say you and me comes on a call, you and me discussed a lot of things, but never it comes after writing. You just you knows and me knows what happens in that meeting, right? There is no meeting notes added, there is no uh, communication done for a larger team. Then these things makes things difficult. So have a right kind of ratio between oral and writing is important. So yeah, these are some kind of key aspects someone should look for.
Yeah, they are definitely key aspect, and as I see, it's even more important to even have it in hybrid or office only environment, because if someone is adopting these features, it will not just help in the remote culture but also help in the office and hybrid environment. For example, the importance of public communication, that even when we are in office, we can do that communication so that larger group is all time aware, because what is happening between that discussion between two people may not be happening with all the people. And
Yeah,
respecting others time, we sometimes may ignore the importance of blocking our time. So for example, if I have to go out for some time, I can just mark it in my calendar, so whenever someone is booking the meeting or looking at the chat, they can get to know those things immediately instead of coming onto the desk, especially even if in a large office. And writing meeting note, I think
yeah,
uh, everyone knows that there is a power in writing the MOMs, because a lot of discussion, even people get into 1 or 2 hour of discussion but without writing even 1 or 2 action items. And
yeah.
having no meeting, no action item means nothing happened, it was just
Nothing.
a conversation that happened. So that's powerful there. Now my next question will be towards Sayam, that when we are working in office, in a within the office environment, it's not just about the work delivery, but indirectly also there are many things which are happening. For example, group learning or problem solving, getting mentoring from someone else, all those aspects are fulfilled. How do you think that how those aspects are managed in a remote work culture environment?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I think it's very easier in the remote ecosystem to be like individualized. Like you are not communicating much. You're just being specific to a task or Jira tickets you are assigned to. How I think a team should engage is basically what we do at Invisible is set up some kind of office hours where, let's say, I want to share some best practices around some framework, how this works, how you should write test cases, how everything's run. So this we set up office hours with a larger audience basically, and send invites. If someone do have time, they comes up, ask questions around things. So such kind of small initiatives, if you do within your teams, it will help to have people more connected. And I see most of remote teams are trying to have at least one offsite, so people have some kind of personal connections as well, because I see a personal connection is more important as much as the professional relation you have
True,
with
true.
someone. Because let's say you are working, you are spending 12 hours a day on your on 9 hours a day in your office hours, right? You just have that time to
Right.
socialize with people, because else time you spend with family. So you need to have the right connection. So I think you should have kind of buddy of people talking with each other, spending some one-on-ones weekly or bi-weekly uh, to have a better relations within teams.
Okay, so then people who are working in remote culture have developed certain other methods of sharing the knowledge, building the group
Yeah,
learning, and also having one-on-one interaction. Even if it is not physical connection, but still they are having certain ways of communication that enables that part of our life. That's
yeah.
interesting to join. No. Now, a question to audience that let us know if you have any question around this topic. I'm sure you must be finding this conversation interesting. So you can type in your questions in the comment box below. And if you have any commendation, any learnings that you are getting from this conversation, you can also share that learning in the comment box below so that it will be visible to larger audience even in future. Coming back to the question with Sanyam, it's interesting to know that these people, these large organizations are hiring the remote resources remotely. But how do they actually find these people? Like even in an domestic environment, finding good quality resources is a challenge. So how does this global companies are able to find such a good talent remotely in other countries?
Yes, there are certain kind of channels people are using. I think one is LinkedIn. LinkedIn helps to have a very large audience, and then they engage with the remote jobs. Apart from that, there are specific framework, specific platforms like Wellfound, which used to be Angel.co. If you look at Angel.co, it was very specific for the startups hiring, which are remote. And there are certain, like if you go to Angel.co or maybe Wellfound, name base now, if you go, you have certain filters. Okay, I need specifically remote in Europe or remote in US or Australia. For certain job role, you can specifically see the roles and how companies are hiring. I think they are using such platforms which are specific created for the remote jobs. So there is one more platform I know is remotejob.com. So there are a couple of places where they put their leads, and then I think it's the same process every company is following to have a standard interview cycle or the review cycles for any candidate. Uh, yeah.
Okay, okay. So, what do you see the future trend in global remote software engineering? Because in the things that started with the COVID, probably most of the companies are finding it difficult and they are bringing back the resources. So, different companies are have following different practices. But how is it that for companies which have already chosen to be remote always? So, what do you see the future trend in that space?
Okay. I'm working either as a freelancer or either as a full employee for the global companies or global teams from 2016. And from that time, I'm seeing a growing trend for that. Uh, I think what happens in COVID, I discussed it before as well. It's basically mixed or added a confusion what a global software engineering or a remote things, basically, because everyone was remote that time. Everyone I met simply says remote, so remote was a new normal at that period. So to trying to have a differentiate between what a remote and what's a actual remote engineer is, that was different. But see I see there was no, if any company started as a remote, as a core value as a remote, they always remains remote, as I discussed before. So uh, I think it's keep growing and it will be keep growing because it's easier for a company to hire people without any geographical constraints. You can hire people from India, you can hire people from Australia, any place, whatever you like. You, if you have right skill set and uh, right mindset of people you are getting, you just hire them without any difficulty. So and when you see such kind of value, uh, it's automatically easier for the companies to operate in that system. I think we have one question. What kind of major challenges do the employees in the companies find in the
Yeah, sure,
remote
sure.
working
I'll take
setup?
up that question. So, what kind of major challenges do the employees and companies find in the remote working setup?
Okay, for employees, if I hear from a lot of people, I usually see people have more difficulties with the work-life balance. As I talk, like you are 24-hour online, your manager or anyone can ping you. So it's important for the companies to set up the right culture, and the people also have to define a right work-life balance or time block for them in which they will work. And I see that's a major issues. Companies see there might be a case where somebody is not doing things with their 100% and think like they are not operating with the right efficiencies. And for employees, they think they do uh, like 2x of work they should be doing at office, basically. So that I feel a more major challenge between employees and companies. And I think companies should come up with the right culture, right values, and right strategies to operate in a remote working setup.
Okay, okay. So there are different kind of challenges. Every setup has their own challenge, but definitely remote has their own challenge. But there are ways to mitigate those challenges, as I understand from your conversation. I have another question coming from Amit, who is asking that can freshers can also get into this global remote software engineering environment, and if yes, how?
Uh, I would say yes, but if you say you are a fresher with no like no frameworks or no things you had worked on, it's hard to find because, as I described, companies are usually startups which have their 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 kind of thing, and they want a right ROI. They cannot spend the resources in which their ROI are 6 months later, basically. So if you work with the right strategy and you think, okay, I can develop some set of skill set, because you can see the job post from different platforms. You can see what's are required, right? And if you develop that skill sets in some duration, then it's easier to get into that.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Sanyam, you also talked about that you were doing also freelancing. So, would you like to tell us more
Yeah.
about how did you get into freelancing and what was your
Okay.
experience?
So for freelancing, why I went into freelancing is not money. Why I went to freelancing is learnings, basically, because what happens when you are working in a certain job, you might be working on a certain project that's doing certain things, right? So your work is constrained to a certain things, and you might get uh, uh, you might get saturated with the learnings as well, right? So for me, I feel okay, I can do some courses, I can do some book reading, but I cannot get a practical learning of things, right? So how can I get a practical learning? So I think this freelance framework helped me a lot, so I can specifically go for a certain jobs or a certain kind of projects. and see, okay, this is what I'm learning, and I think I can implement my learning on these certain projects. And that's how I started my journey. Basically, I want to learn infrastructure, then I started taking infrastructure jobs or infrastructure projects. And from there, I like, once you do a practical implementation, you learn thousands more things, and that's how you improvised over a period of time. So if you want to engage or learn a new skill set from your job, other than your job, I think I think it more be controversial, people saying you are encouraging people to do moonlighting or things, but you needs to be have right work ethics. If you're working for some company or doing any full-time job, you should be having your 100% plus on that job. And then if you want to learn new things, then spend your weekends or spend your free hours of doing things you actually want to do as well, because job cannot give you everything you want for your learning.
Okay, that's a very bold statement that someone doing freelancing not primarily for the money but for the learning, and I think I would like to commend you for that learning aspect. And we have got one commendation already from Pranika Gupta is saying congratulations Sanyam Bansal. I have another question coming from Rita. Rita is asking that what differentiate 10x developer from others. So 10x developer, as we all know, are the developers like who are highly paid globally, and there are companies who are still wanting those 10x developers, and you are working in a global environment. So in your experience, what differentiate 10x developer, these excellent oriented developer, from others?
In my opinion, there are no someone who is a 10x developer. There is no developer who can do 10x of work another developer is doing. So that statement is a bit. But how you can be a 2x developer? That's what I was talking earlier as well. Like, if you develop your primary, secondary skill sets, you if you can provide more things to a company as a person, if you have more stories to provide. Let's say, if I as I like if I'm a backend engineer, I can say I can develop infrastructure and everything. I can help you with your SOC 2 compliance. I can help you with SOC 1 compliance and things. It will be you are become a 2x developer because you are providing more value to the company, and company will be happy to pay you more in that aspect.
Okay, that's insightful. That at least you can, if not 10x, you can at least aim to become 2x developer in the beginning. Probably
Yes.
slowly and gradually your value can increase. Uh, Sayam, when we were having a discussion some time back, you were talking about that the best developers are not going on LinkedIn or other job sites. They are doing the
Yeah.
work, so it's actually hard to find. Could you tell us more about that thought process?
Okay. Actually, that might not be my statement, but that's a statement from the Zomato founders. So
Okay.
what he said, like, he never hired the person who are looking for job, and I feel like the people who are, if as we say, like 10x developer in that sense, they usually at the right place, right? If they are 100 10x developers, they use 90% of them might be at the right place, and 10% of them might be like shuffling around. So if you want to hire that kind of developers, it's I do not think that the channel of like waiting for them to
Connect with.
apply for it.
Yeah.
It's more around you have to reach out to the people. I know a lot of recruiters which are personally connected to me keep connected with you for a longer period and keep checking, are you looking for a change, are you looking for a change, because they know there are certain people who do not all the time looking for a job change because they are happier at some place and they are right paid, or maybe they are happier with the culture and everything. And they keep checking, okay, if you are looking for a change, then we have options for you. So uh, I see that's what happens. uh,
Okay, I understand that part. Now, as we are approaching closure of the time, I think I would just, still would like to ask one last question, which is more about that. In India, we have seen that there have been colleges in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and there are a lot of software engineers in the marketplace. But still, whenever there is a news that this big company fired so many engineers and that company fired so many engineers, it creates a situation or a thought process of panic in those engineers that will they get the desired job. So what's in your mind? How is the future of IT industry from your perspective for people who are about to enter into this field?
Yes, I want to add one thing. So Vikas sir was my mentor when I was in college, and I am from a tier three college basically. And Vikas sir helped me a lot in my college duration. Okay, what to do and what not to do, and I think that helped me pretty much in shaping my career. How like okay, I know companies do fire people, do layoffs because companies are different dynamics. They have, might have their shares up and down to correct the net profits or correct few things. They do couple of layers of and things, right? But you need to focus on your skill sets. If you have right skill set, and if what market is demanding, you never have to worry about jobs. So for me, I work in this global startup ecosystem, which is high risk and high rewarding. Uh, and high risk means there are very much high percentage of you might getting laid off, or you might getting not getting paid something. So you need to be focused on your skill sets and focus on your things you're working on, because if you have right skill sets, it's very much easier to have another job ready for your next day. And for me, I developed a big my freelancing portfolio. I know a lot of people's, a lot of clients. I've worked in my recent, so I have a big network. So I that's helped me to not worry about the job basically, because I know if something happens, I have a lot of people to reach out and get something done.
Okay, so as we can see, probably the parting statement would be that you should have the right skill set and the right network. So you should be in the radar of right kind of people, so that if there is a requirement, you know how to and whom to connect with. And but primary focus should be on developing your skill set, so that it is always relevant to the marketplace, right? Sanyam,
Yes.
any last thought before we close for the day? Last message for the audience.
Yeah, one thing I say to everyone: if you are initially in your career, like till 5, 6, 7 year of experience, focus on learnings, not on money. I see people paid 2x or 3x, they jump around different companies and then layoffs off happens and getting unemployed. Instead, focus on learning, because if you set up a right skill set in 5, 6 year of experience, then you do not have to worry about next 15 years. So better to build a solid root for your skill sets and in your network, and then it's easier to grow later on.
That's a powerful message, and I think everyone can connect to that. That in the beginning, focus on learning, and then automatically L will drop down, and you will left with earning, good lot of earning. So earning is
Yeah.
already hidden in the word learning. And for those of you who would like to focus more on and connect with Sanyam, we are showing the LinkedIn account of Sanyam down below, so you can follow him and connect with him for any questions and queries. With that, I would like to thank you again, Sanyam, for taking out time to be on VectoScalar Tech Talk show and share your experiences with us, talking about the rise of global remote software engineers and how the ecosystem is working. Thanks again.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Vikas.
Thank you. And for the audience, it has been lovely to have you again and again for our weekly VectoScalar Tech Talk show. I'm sure you will join again next week with another amazing speaker and share your ideas, questions, and comments. Keep typing in the comment box below so that we can know what you are doing, how you are feeling. And if you have any recommendation for topic, if you think that you are looking for a future podcast on any of the topic, you can still type in the comment box below, and we'll be taking of that topic in future podcasts. With that, thanks, bye bye, and have a nice day ahead. See ya.
Thanks.